Yeah.
Reclaiming Timeless Ways, Mike Traister, Simon Fuller, glad to have you along. And Mike, this is going to be a unique show because it's just literally roll the camera, the notebook's going to stay shut.
Right.
We were having a little off-camera discussion, and you said, Simon, I got a couple things I want to talk about. We'll let you determine if you like it or not, but go ahead, Mike. Take this away. Let's see what this ad-lib show is all about.
All right. I don't remember what happened, but I remember I was thinking about somebody getting provoked, right? And so they get provoked, and it really just ramps them up, and they are just, their nostrils are flared, and their eyes are up, and their blood pressure's up, and their heart's pounding, and they want to pound somebody. And they stay in that state for minutes and hours and days, and they get on a track. So everything that happens around them, they only recognize the things and focus on the things that remind them of more shit, right?
Right.
They're like, there's another piece of shit, right? So if you want to cut that out, please do. Okay.
This is authentic Mike.
Okay. So they only are relating to the things that remind them of this thing that lit them up, right? Like an electric wire on your seat, and you go, whoa, right?
Right.
But then at some point, for some reason, they quiet down, something calms them or distracts them from their own little obsessive period of days. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, there's nice things too. I've been on a track, just like a train in its station, and somebody's got these big switches, right? And they can literally switch the train from track to track.
Absolutely.
Right?
We have that choice.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what it was. I was in a restaurant locally, and I'm sitting there eating, and there's this woman sitting there, decent looking, but she seemed kind of angry, and she was just talking to somebody in the restaurant about one thing that pissed her off, and another, and another, and another. And I think I looked at her, and she kind of looked at me, and I said, "How you doing? My name's Mike." She said, "Hi," and I said, it's funny, I've made some choices in my life where I've chosen people to be around or circumstances that suited me poorly instead of well. And then maybe I got in a pattern of doing that, and then I wound up being angry. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, that does happen. And I said something else to her, and all of a sudden, she's angry at me. And I'm like, this isn't going anywhere good. This is her MO. This is it. This is her seat in her Ferrari. This is all that she has. It's her turf, and she's gonna defend it at all costs.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in her life except rage. So I looked away and I stopped talking to her. It was a complete waste of time. Anyway, she was applying for a job there, and I looked at the manager as I was leaving, and I said, that woman that was there with the job, she goes, yeah, she was so angry she couldn't even fill out her name. And I was like, you're not going to hire her, are you? She's like, God, no. I said, good, because she's going to run people out of this place. That's all she does.
And I'm far from being the best father in the world or know-it-all, but one thing I tell my kids when I drop them off, and they're 9 and 7 every day on the way to school, I'm always trying to cheer them up. You always want to start the day on a good note.
Right.
You're going to run into different things, both good and bad, over the course of your day. And some of them are going to frustrate you and anger you, and some of them are going to bring you joy and happiness. And you just that's the rest of your life, that you're going to have those situations. Right. And I always say to them, remember, kids, choose to have a great day today.
Right, yeah.
And I say it because you do have a choice in that. Now, I'm not going to say those things don't still piss you off in those moments, but you can choose, and after you step back from that moment, to kind of reprogram that moment, walk away, approach it with happiness, try to bring it into a better light. You have a choice in every situation. And I think that's worth noting, and I just, as much as I say it to them, I say it to help remind me, because I'm far from perfect in that world. I can get bent out of shape easy.
Of course, we get tracked.
And it's a good thing to keep in mind. Choose to have a good day today. Mm-hmm. Choose to be happy. Choose to be kind. Choose to be caring. Choose those things.
Did I tell you about my game that I call 10?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like, I don't remember how it happened. We should have talked about it, but
Maybe we did.
maybe we did.
Talked about a lot of stuff, Mike.
Right,
I've
a lot.
I've got poor retention. Maybe, and I know you've talked about some herbal medicine. You need to help me on something for mental retention.
Blueberries.
I'm on it.
Okay, get more blueberries. More like blueberry yogurt is a real easy one to do.
Yeah.
But all
I
the-
like blueberries too.
Oh,
You know, I
okay.
never think to get them, but I do like them.
Oh, okay. There's the two compounds. They're called anthocyanin and anthocyanicide, and they're all related to the blue in the berry family, and those are very good for connective tissue and brain and immune function. So
good to
I would,
know.
yeah, it's wonderful, and you don't have to remember the words. It's just dark berries.
Yeah.
You know, red, blue, purple. You know, they're all wonderful for your brain. But the whole idea that this person was on this track. So anyway, the idea of 10. So let's say some crap happens to me, and it's somebody, a friend, a former friend betrays me, right? Or somebody I thought was my friend, but they're just a user piece of garbage,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm angry at them. But underneath that anger at them, I'm angry at myself because
Sure.
I saw the signs and I made myself oblivious
Yeah.
because I enjoyed what I wanted to be a friendship.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just a user,
Yeah.
right?
We can convince ourselves of a lot of things as humans.
Yeah.
I mean, we
I don't
really
want.
can.
I don't want to see this because I want. You know, maybe we'll enjoy.
I don't want that to be true. What I think is true. Nope,
Right.
it's not. Nope. You talk yourself out of it.
Right. So in the game of 10, or it's not a game, it's a process. Call it a game. Call it what you want. So let's say this crap just happened to you, right? And you look around the room, and you maybe you walk past the mirror and you see the insignia on your very nicely made shirt.
Gotta love the Hawkeyes. Thanks for
Oh.
the plug, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, and it's like there's one,
Yeah.
right? And then you're just looking around, and you're kind of scanning now. You're like, oh yeah, 10. 10 could be 8. It could be 12.
Yeah.
And you look, you think, I love these microphones. They do such a good job. These are my treasures. They're an important part. They're like a runner's feet.
Right.
You know, they're like intrinsic to what I get accomplished. You turn around, you see the brick wall. You go, that adds a lot to this room.
Yeah.
You're up to number 3, right? And maybe you crack your knuckles like I'm trying to do and not succeeding. And you're like, I sure am glad I have hands. You know? And then you notice your watch, and it's like, I love this watch. Dirt cheap, but a gorgeous watch. Keeps good time, very, very tough. And just a beautiful watch. And so now you're up to like 4 or 5, and you were already kind of that track, that iron track that's keeping you on
You've
that.
diffused yourself, basically.
You've what?
You've diffused yourself.
You did,
Yeah.
right.
You're focusing on something good.
Absolutely, and your track is to find things that are like that. So maybe you look at that interesting clock that you have there that's keeping time, and maybe you see the computer behind it, and you see the camera, beautiful camera, and maybe for a moment you think about what was the technology that went into making that lens so flawless,
Yeah.
you know? And now you're up to like 8 or 9 or whatever, and you're pretty much, your whole train has moved off that track. That's behind you.
And that's funny you say that, Mike. A simple little thought in marketing that I was once taught or trained in, or we talked about, maybe not trained, but you go to the restaurant, you have a bad experience.
Right. Had one last week. Montezuma was visiting.
Most people aren't going to say anything to the server.
Right.
You should, or the manager or somebody, and you do that professionally, by the way, but whatever your issue was, you get that resolved. But instead what typically happens is you walk out of there, you're angry because the food was cold, the waiters was
Right.
not, whatever it was.
Right.
You walk out there, and you tell 10 of your friends. You had a fantastic experience the very next day somewhere. How many people do you tell when you walk out?
I bet you one.
Exactly,
Right.
and human nature, that's sort of a human nature, and it ties back into what you're
Right,
saying, you know.
right.
So I can have a fantastic day full of good things, and all those things you listed off are wonderful things.
Right.
But instead of choosing to focus on all of those good things, we let that one moment just burn down our day.
Yeah.
Or hour or 10 minutes, whatever it is, and it wastes your time, effort, energy, and really in the grand scheme of things, it probably, I mean, you've got much more good than bad. Why do we let that bad own us?
Right.
You know, eat us away.
Right.
Define us in a sense.
Right.
I like that game because it takes
Yeah.
your focus back on what truly is important and relevant and good and where we want to be.
Now imagine that you're a strong-willed child, or that I am, right? And I am. I'm a big child, but I'm still, you know. So somebody says to you to screw with you and challenge your negativity. They say, okay, there's a new rule. That game of 10, you know, and the kid's real persnickety. Yeah, I don't have to do that. That's fine. You're not allowed to do it.
Right.
What do you mean I'm not allowed to? I'm gonna. Right? I'm gonna find good stuff. Oh, okay. You know? So you know, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But so this kind of segues into the other thing I was mentioning to you, which is something. I had a dream about being on a bus along a rim of a circular rim of a cliff. I think it was in Colorado. Anyway, the bus driver is this huge, overweight guy, and he has a heart attack and drops dead. And I'm sitting there, and I'm in the seat to the right of him in the front, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm paralyzed in fear, and we're heading to the edge of the cliff, and all of a sudden I wake up completely out of breath, freaked out.
Knowing you're going over.
Gonna die, right? That's 500 feet and down. And so I think about this during the week, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why didn't I get up and throw his dead butt out of the seat and steer the bus, right? And stop it. I mean, anybody can step on the brake.
Right.
I don't have to be a professional bus driver.
Right.
And so I just kept thinking about this in little moments, but intense moments. Like, what's wrong with you? You know, Wake up. You know, stop that. Don't do that again. No, no, no. Next time you get up, you throw his butt. So anyway, I just keep thinking about this, right? And a week or so later, I have the same damn dream.
Yeah.
And in the dream, I get up, the guy drops dead again, falls into the steering wheel with his massive girth, and I grab him and I pull him out, dump him on the floor, get in the seat, and stop the bus.
Right.
Save us all, you know? And it was like, on some level, I was beginning to be conscious, and my conscious waking mind was interfering with the events that were happening, and I was altering the dream.
Yeah.
So the question, which is the kind of the funny question that I was asking, that we were joking about, which is, whose mind is it anyway?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if
Who's in
I'm
control.
right, so if I'm having a dream, am I having the dream, or is the dream having me?
Right.
Right? And if I'm having the dream, whose mind is it coming from?
Right.
Right? And do I think during the day, but if I think during the day when I go to sleep, am I really saying to myself, well, I think during the day, I make conscious choices, but during night, thoughts happen to me, not from me?
Right.
Do I cede ownership of my mind when I'm asleep and it just happens? I'm a train without brakes going down a steep mountain pass, or is it still my mind?
Right.
So, my suggestion is, if you're having traumatic dreams about bad people or spiders and lions and tigers and bears or dead bus drivers or whatever, that there's a subject that I really suggest that you look up, and it's called lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming.
Lucid, Lucid, and it's very much worth reading about, because you're taking back, it's like the track with the lever.
Yeah.
Whose mind is it? Crap thoughts or 10, right? Dream, same exact, not similar, same thing. Whose mind is it, right? And it's like, now, if you think about that once, it's not going to affect your life. What if you think about it 3 times a day for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
for 30 seconds, or 3 seconds? You're repatterning your mind, right? You're changing your whole reality, right?
Yeah. That's interesting.
And it doesn't have to be 10, it could be 20. 10 could be 20, it could be 50. You can take 10 minutes. And what you can do to add a dimension to it is, let's say I really like this pen. It's inexpensive, but it's a good pen. So I can say to myself, I like this. It's called a profile, Papermate. So I can say to myself out loud, I like this Papermate pen. I can say it, like I said about my watch or about your shirt, you know? And that adds another dimension of experience.
You're going to be dreaming about Papermate pins now, Blaine.
I might be obsessing about it. I might need treatment. I might need a 12-step. Hi, my name is Mike. Oh, you Papermate Mike? You heard about me, huh? Yeah, right. So speech, thinking, speaking, writing, right? Reading,
Yeah.
right? Repeating, analogies. Those are all reinforcements. They're dimensions, right? So the more that you do, the more you reinforce your learning and also the direction that your mind takes. Now, the way I look at it, this is something we talked about in the past. When we think that we're important, we become kind of paralyzed in terms of our purpose in this world because we're always thinking in terms of, sorry, buddy, I'm better than you. This is like a person, right? Or, oh, you're important and I'm nothing, right? We don't do that. What we think is, what are my gifts?
Yeah.
God gave me a whole box full and they pop up one at a time over time. And then how do I find some way, not to kiss somebody else's butt, but how do I find some way to use that gift,
Yeah.
right? So not everybody is going to be Tommy Emmanuel, the brilliant guitarist from Australia, you know, but maybe you have a gift in music and you write lyrics.
Sure.
Or you listen, you know, maybe you just love to listen to music and that enhances your life. I saw this thing the other day, and this is more part of owning your mind. These are all segues, but they're like spokes on the wheel. There's a whole thing of a collection of Mozart music, right? It was on the net. I bumped into it by coincidence, if you will. And it's like music for writers. Well, apparently there's something about the structure of Mozart's music that helps the brain function and focus better. And that gets right back to that same question, the funny question, whose mind is it anyway? It sounds like a Woody Allen movie, right? But it's serious at the same time that it's funny. And it's like, oh, so are there tools that I can use to take back ownership of my mind? Well, what about your breathing? If you breathe like a cornered animal that's going to become the lunch of the bear,
Right.
you have no control over your mind. You're in a state of uncontrolled panic, like a free fall, right? But what if you take control of your breathing in a tough situation? It changes you. And then it changes your ability to act consciously so you're no longer an object.
Yeah. It's kind of that fight or flight. Once you lose track or you get in one of those modes, you're out of this mode. You're just reacting versus acting consciously, you know.
Right, exactly, and that's an incredibly important word, reacting. Because when you're reacting, it's happening to you. You're like a mousetrap. Right. Something triggers you like that,
right.
You know. But when you're in a thinking and choosing mode, you're responding.
Right.
Right. So your word is the perfect word.
Yeah.
It is really the perfect word. I'm glad you brought that up. Because I wouldn't have thought of it. See, star.
I got one today.
You got at least one. I think you got about 50 of them, actually. But, so whose mind is it? It's your mind. It's my mind. It's your mind, you know. And who said so? Well, it just is. Nobody has to give you permission for it to be your mind.
Yeah.
You just have to remember.
Blueberries will help me do that.
Blueberries, right.
Kind of a fun show, Mike. And I'll tell you what, we'll see what our viewers think of it.
Okay.
I mean, we no notepadded off the cuff. You said, I got a topic I want to talk about. Well, let's roll the camera.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
I got some value out of it,
Yeah.
some real life parallels in my world. And I hope you guys did too. I mean, it is your mind. And
It is
that's,
your mind.
you know, make conscious decisions, good decisions, right decisions. Choose to be happy, choose to do good things, and control what is controllable, and that's yourself. Only you.
I don't like being out in the wilderness very much. It's uncomfortable. I did some mountain climbing many years ago, and I hated it, but I did it. I almost fell off a big cliff once. It was awful.
Doesn't sound fun.
No, and my hatred of like heights got worse. It didn't fix it. But you learn that you have to control your mind, or you're not coming home.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to just be a splat somewhere down there. But talk about the mind. The other thing. So we talk about blueberries, and this is maybe more food for a future show. Turmeric.
Yeah.
It's a yellow spice from India. It's in mustard.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of the Indian foods. It seems to prevent or reduce the onset and the severity of Alzheimer's. I mean, they did some like incredibly deep studies where they looked backwards over decades in people's lives. It's like, why do these very poor people not have Alzheimer's? They came up with one thing, turmeric. So maybe we'll talk about herbs in another show.
Because I think, honestly, that could be a show, Mike. I mean,
Absolutely.
You gave me this book.
Right.
And I did find it. I think
good.
you were asking. I thought, I think I borrowed it. No, I gave you a copy, and you did. And I
Yeah,
have it.
good.
And just a lot of good information. And again, never are we trying to sidestep medical attention or anything of those
No.
natures. We're just adding information to help equip you for life, really,
Right.
Mike.
And it's like, we talked about the whole spectrum of quality in medicine, all the way from the bozo, the arrogant fool, to the brilliant, deeply committed practitioner. You have to search for the right one.
Right.
And that leads me to another subject. We've already talked about books, but so it's another thing for us to plan on, and that is, you look at like what's going on in Europe right now with the war, with monster Putin, this lunatic, this dark soul who's just trying to destroy a country for his own insane, demonic ego.
Yeah.
And those people, and how much at risk they are. So I have a question, and it's a question for a survivalist, and anybody that wears a seatbelt, that owns a fire extinguisher, or that has a bumper jack in their car, they have made an agreement not to be a victim, right? And that is, if you were to slowly become 10 books that could make you much more self-sufficient, mentally, physically, spiritually, environmentally, what books would you become? Just 10. Imagine how your life would change if you absorbed 10 profoundly useful books, right? That covered the spectrum of self-care and like how do we prepare, like if we lost access to things in the store,
Right.
what would we do? Would we give up and quit and say, well, I'm dead? Or would we say, well, there's got to be something I can eat,
Yeah. Knock on Mike's door.
Yeah, right. Because he's got secret stash.
Oh, but that's an interesting question.
Right. 10 books. 10 books. So maybe it's a show on herbs, which would be an interesting conversation. Not to pretend that we're flawlessly knowledgeable,
Right.
or to become substitutes for doctors, which we're not, And I'm not saying that to kiss doctors' asses. I'm really not, because I have a love-hate relationship with the arrogance and the skill.
That you've run into in your
Oh, boy,
profession. I mean,
whatever.
you've been a nurse and you've been in that field a long time. You've seen both sides.
I have. And I remember this one guy who was such a wonderful doc. He's very much inspired and heart and head driven. He was from North Dakota, and people would come into his office just freaked out and in the most horrific state of despair, and they would come out 20 minutes later with this sweet, peaceful smile on their face. And he had changed something in them with this quiet way that he dealt with them. And I used to say, call him Dr. R, that he practiced medicine with an angel on his shoulder,
Yeah.
Yeah. And he did, I think. I think he was literally divinely inspired, aside from being very, very smart and skillful. So, but he never made it about himself,
Yeah.
So,
I think that's probably a big key. Well, Mike, some good shows coming up. We've put some teasers out there in this one, so not too much further down the road. You'll get a couple episodes on some survival, some herbs, some information, and just some stuff that maybe you'll find of interest and want to dig into a little bit deeper. We hope that's what each show does, just inspires something in you or somebody you know. So,
right.
Till next time, have a great day. Thanks for joining us for
Thank
Reclaiming
you.
Timeless Ways.
Have a great day.